Hello and welcome to the ZoShow. This is a weekly episode. I am your host, Zohab Sadiq, and this show is all about inspiration, lessons, anything that can literally rev up your week. Every week we have a guest on who talks about their story, their journey. There's a lot of wisdom and influence that people share. My guests every week, there's always something that people can learn from. So if you're listening on the radio, if you're watching on YouTube, do like and subscribe to my channel. However, my guest this week is someone who I've known for quite a while now. And just like last week when we had Bali on the show, she's been on my other shows as well. But the content this time is going to be a lot deeper, and she is going to share some killer techniques about video marketing, but I won't ruin it all. But I won't ruin all of it. I'll let her dive more into it. So, Rohini, welcome to the ZoShow.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So great to have you on. Honestly, we've known each other just over 6 years now, something.
Too long, Zoe.
Something like that. Too long. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not, but I'll take it. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic to have you on the show again. You know, like I said, I'm so pleased that you're going to be sharing everything that we've discussed prior to to the show. However, why don't we do a quick intro at yourself?
Sure. What would you like to know?
Who is Rohini and what does she do?
So I run Livewire Media, where we do video marketing for luxury real estate companies. I've been doing that for a number of years now. Absolutely love it. So we not only create the video content for you, but we'll help you to use that as a strategy to reach your business goals.
Wonderful. And just for people who don't know who you are, how did you kind of get into video? What is it about video that stimulates you?
I got into it probably when I was about 6. My dad happened to get this really nice camera. I don't know if you guys remember. Do you remember like the Kodak cameras that was like the size of your head?
The massive ones, yeah. It's like a gym weight almost, yeah.
Yeah, so we got one of those, and I remember it being like a brick, and I just became fascinated with like the digital concept of it, of like how I could point this lens at anything I was seeing and see it appear on a screen. So I began kind of tinkering with cameras and technology and just become fascinated with how technology works. And then I kind of became like the go-to person in the family for all things like photography, video, creative. And then when I was at uni, I knew that I had to network, because in the media industry, it's all about who you know, not what you know.
Yeah.
So I networked a lot. So when I left uni, I was like, right, people, I need money. Mm-hmm. Come at me. What have you got? And my dad happened to, again, have the latest camera at the time. So he let me use it to start making videos for these corporate companies. And so I was quite fortunate at the beginning that I already had the clientele there. But I very quickly saw that these video companies, I'd make amazing videos, but they didn't know marketing. And the business owner also didn't know marketing. They didn't know how to use videos as a tool. So they were stuck in this kind of predicament of, do I then have to hire another marketing person, which is going to cost more time and more money? Or am I going to have to take time away from my business to learn how to use this video effectively? So right from the beginning, I started positioning myself as a video marketer. And that's when the doors and opportunities just came flooding forward, because nobody else was doing it, really.
That's interesting. Well, it's a lovely story about your father, as well, who unfortunately is no longer with us. However, it's so nice to hear the fact that you were introduced to it by your dad, by someone close to you, but that whole evolution and the origin of that story, it's amazing how week to week when I sit on the show and I hear about people's, how they got into the business, how they found their names for their companies or what started them off. There's this really personal touch to everything.
Yeah.
And before, I think you were called just Rohini, wasn't it? Rohini Videography, when we first met. So what is it about like video that not just stimulates you? We've covered that, but why should people consider businesses, individuals, content creation or, whatever people do now? Like, what is it about video that people, why should people be getting into video?
It gets people engaged. It captivates them so much more than any other form of content out there. And I always kind of use this analogy of do you want to cut your grass with a lawnmower or a pair of scissors? You're going to get results either way. It's just using videos is a lot faster because your audience is way more engaged with it.
Yeah.
And the scientific reason why they're more engaged with it, because it hits more of our senses, visual senses, hearing senses, emotional senses. Sometimes people can even taste what they're seeing. So from a scientific perspective, if you're not using videos, you're literally leaving money on the table.
Yeah. It's interesting how videos evolved over the years. We're in different formats and mediums. Sort of, I might be showing my age here, but going back to VHS and then, DVD and Laserdisc and all these other things. And now it seems like video, even the term has changed, where now people are just creating video all the time. You see people on YouTube and influencers, YouTubers, all these different terms that people have now. What's your kind of view on how video has evolved over the years?
It's so much more accessible. And I think the reason it's become more accessible is because businesses have really they've got to know how important it is for their business.
Yeah.
So they've made it easier for consumers to start creating videos themselves and having fun with it. That's one of the main reasons why people make videos and why consumers enjoy interacting with videos. Like TikTok, for example, people spend hours scrolling through TikTok because they're getting an experience from it.
Yeah.
And that's where video is heading now. It's not just how can we make this content look great, it's how can we make this a really amazing experience for viewers. And that's where AI comes into play. Yeah.
And we'll touch more on that, I think, a little bit later in the show. I mean, we've covered quite a lot here. So I think people who are tuning into the first 6 minutes of this show are probably thinking, wow, I've done, I've all of a sudden video, social media, we're talking about AI. So we'll try and sort of stagger that a little bit later so people don't get overwhelmed. Do stay tuned with us. Like I said, we'll try not to overwhelm people too much. But it's interesting now, we're saying YouTubers, TikTokers, all that sort of stuff, and it's amazing how people are now so much more comfortable with video, whereas there's usually this attachment with people being on video. Back in the day, like you'd think that video would only be TV shows, films, documentaries, that sort of stuff, where you need to be, let's say, qualified to shoot videos or qualified to be in a video, like an actor or whatever. But that's not the case anymore, is it? It's changed so much where, like you said, it's accessible, but anybody can create a video now.
Yeah. I think that's what's great about it. I mean, people always say to me, what makes a viral video? And what makes a viral video is something that's just really, really cool. Something that really entices people and makes them want to watch more. I mean, if a hairdryer video can get millions of views on YouTube, your business can do the same thing.
I'm just gonna ask, what's the meaning of the term viral?
I think that's massively changed. So when YouTube kind of first launched, the official terminology was 10,000 views, your video's gone viral, amazing. But now it seems to be like anyone's personal preference. So I had a client the other day, he messaged me saying, I've had a video go mini viral. It had just under 40K. To some people, that's viral, not mini viral. To other people, 1,000 views is a lot of views. To other people, 1 million is viral.
Yeah. Is it pros and cons of being viral? Because you can be viral and think like, oh my God, I'm famous because I've had so many views. But can it also have like a detrimental effect as well?
It can, because especially if you've got a face to the brand. Because if you've got I don't know if you've seen it. If you guys seen the Bentley girl?
I haven't seen that personally. But
so basically there's this company, I think they're called Jetcar in America, where they put this really beautiful blonde person at the face of their brand, and all she does is just point out Bentley, and that's literally it. And she says it in like a really cool, fun kind of way. That got them millions of views, therefore made them millions of pounds. Made literally every single video that they made with her went viral. But that's now put a target on their head, because it means that if another brand comes in and pays that blonde girl even more money and she chooses to leave them, what are Jetcar going to do? Because they've lost their number one asset.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of like a bittersweet thing for them.
Catch-22 almost.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. And that's the risk that a lot of brands face when they go viral. They have a big face to the company. What if that person gets bought out? How are you going to top what you do next?
Yeah. Is there a strategy? Is there like a strategy to becoming viral? Because I often find things go viral without even maybe meaning to go viral, like a clip from a video or something on the news or something that you might be scrolling on social media. All of a sudden, like a meme or a GIF or something, it can just how do people know that? Do people know that something will become viral, or does it just happen?
I think it's a bit of both. I think all marketing is human psychology. And when you have a viral piece of content, all it is just a lot of people thinking this is really cool. Now, you can't really put that into like a scientific or like a formula, if you like, to say, if I do this in my videos, I'm going to get this outcome and I'm going to get 1 million views, because humans don't work in that way. It's like me saying to you, what do you like? How can I make you like me? And therefore me doing that and then expecting you to then like me. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what brands need to do to create viral content is really get to know their target demographic. What makes them think, wow, that's amazing? And I don't just mean like in your business. What interests them personally? What are their values? What are their personal goals? What drives them? Why do they do what they do? You need to get to know exactly who they are. And if that seems overwhelming, then think about one person. Imagine that your brand is specifically made for one person. What's their personality like? And really think about that in detail. When you get to know your target demographic in that level of detail, that's when you can start crafting content that really hits them right in the heart and makes them want to share it. When people share it, you get more views. And therefore you go viral.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's all, you're saying psychology. It's the way people perceive what they watch and what they're consuming every day.
Yeah.
Just sort of taking it back now. We're going to throw it back to the early days. Young Rohini. I mean, you are young, obviously, but younger Rohini. So back at school, was video something, or was marketing, video, creativity? Was that always the future, or were there other subjects that you were interested in?
No, I was definitely winging it.
Yeah.
No, I remember the day quite vividly, actually. I got to my college interview. You know how they do college interviews when they say if you got into the course or not. So I remember going to my interview. I didn't quite make the grade, but I happened to have the interview with the head of the department, and I basically talked my way into getting onto the course because I didn't quite make the grade. And I remember him saying to me, okay, well, we've got half an hour before the interview's closed, and if you don't make a choice, then you've got to wait another year to get onto the next course, if you do get onto the next course. So he gave me this brochure, and I remember thinking, well, okay, well, it's between music and media. And I literally just picked the course based on the picture.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because when you've got half an hour to make like a life decision, essentially, you're going to look at the little details like that. And I thought, well, they're having fun in the picture, so I'm going to have that fun.
You want that. You want that as well. Yeah. But was it something but do you think you would have pursued it even if you hadn't chosen that picture or pointed at it that day?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? How that kind of, that almost determined the path, that you've
I think deep down, I've always been like entrepreneurial. I mean, even at school, I was just selling stuff. But when I decided to set up a business, like most people, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't even know what a business coach was. And I spent the first 2.5 years of my business life just faffing around, figuring out what to do, because nobody tells you that, people congratulate you when you start a business, but nobody tells you the mindset shift that needs to happen. Yeah. Because it is a different mindset from having a 9-to-5 kind of job to suddenly running your own business.
Yeah.
Because you're suddenly thinking, well, I'm making all the decisions myself. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm making all the decisions for myself.
Yeah. It's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Or, you can sit on both sides of the fences. And I think also from an Asian community point of view, what was it like going to your parents and saying, you want to do video, because it's like traditional Asian mentality and whatnot, but were they on board, or were they a little bit?
I think I'm quite fortunate that I have very, very supportive, amazing parents. However, obviously they're going to have concerns. every Asian fantasy is to have a doctor or a lawyer or a solicitor, something that's secure.
Yeah.
So to kind of rewind a bit, when I left uni, I went to work into television for a little while. Loved the industry, but I knew that it wasn't for me. And I was living in London at the time. I just got fired from my job in London.
Yeah.
And I went to a networking event. I met my then business partner, and we set up a health and wellbeing business together. And I thought, you know what, I really like this business thing. And like I said earlier, I always liked the idea of setting up my own business. I just didn't know what I was doing. Now I had a mentor in place to help me to apply the strategies from the health and wellbeing business into the video business. So 2 weeks later, after setting up the health and wellbeing business, I set up the video business as well. And then anything creative in London is super saturated. So I moved back up to Birmingham so I could have more opportunities, but also save a lot of money as well. So I was definitely ignorance on fire, because within a month, I'd lost my job, my only source of income, set up 2 businesses and moved home.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of stress to put on yourself, isn't it? And actually, I'm just going to rewind it a little bit there. You said that that television wasn't for you. You worked in the industry, and then obviously, you got fired from that job. What was it about television that you thought that didn't fit for you?
I'd always seen like people kind of walking on eggshells. They didn't really have like a work-life balance. A lot of people in the TV world would not know anything outside of their TV world because it just consumed them. I remember somebody saying to me, I'm really grateful that I'm married to somebody who's an editor, because they get the lifestyle. They get that I can't put my kids to sleep at night. They get that sometimes I'm not going to be there in the morning. And I thought, okay, cool, that's fine, fair enough for you. And then when I got fired, it's like the veil had just been lifted on this glamorous industry.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't really want that for my future. I thought there's got to be a better way. I mean, how
it didn't align with you, basically.
Yeah. I thought, how are business owners really doing it? Because there's got to be more than just working 12 hours a day or even just a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that if that's for you. Amazing. Do you? It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Yes. It's funny how different industries have their own personas, don't they? And it's like that clearly wasn't the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And then obviously you moved out of TV, and then did you go straight from TV into the business, or did you work anywhere else?
Pretty much, while I was setting up and getting the businesses running and faffing around for 2.5 years, I took on odd jobs here and there. I was employed at a local business in the Jewellery Quarter. I got fired from that job.
Yeah. There's wisdom in this, by the way, ladies and gents. If anyone who's listening and thinking like, Zoe's interviewing somebody who's got fired from 2 jobs, I am. But however, there is an incredible journey that leads on from this. So just bear with us.
So I got fired from that job, and I thought, okay, well, I need another job now to subsidise my income. And then I took on a job working with my sister in her company, and I also got fired from that job too. So fired from 3 jobs. And in the 3rd job, that's when I had a real massive awakening, because it really jolted me out of my comfort zone. And this is where I mentioned earlier about that thing of switching from an employee mindset to a business mindset. When you have an employee mindset, you're used to having that comfort and that security of having a regular paycheck every month. Now, when I was setting up the business, within the first year, I would say, even though I was making enough money to live on, and in some cases more than what I was making in my day job, because I wasn't making it consistently, it wasn't comfortable for me to leave my day job. So I started unconsciously self-sabotaging. So in the 2nd job I got fired from, I started making like little mistakes. And I guess that was kind of like the universe's way of telling me that you're not actually meant to be here. Because when they called me to say, we're not going to, continue with our growth with you on the team, I was actually on another video job at the time. So I thought, okay, cool, I'm going to take this as a sign. I don't care. Yeah. And I moved on. But then that comfort zone set in, that fear of, what if I don't get another client? What if this doesn't happen?
Yeah.
The doubt started kicking in. And of course, when you're coming from like a working, not even just an Asian background, but like a working class background, when you're living with your family, they're thinking, well, what are you doing? Where's that paycheck coming from? So I wanted to show something to them, that I wasn't just kind of sitting around doing nothing and just making these little videos here and there. So I took on the third job, and that really grew my mindset to a whole other level, because I was making beauty videos in an office with zero budget. And when I say zero budget, I literally mean they wouldn't fork out for anything like makeup. I had to bring in my own makeup for a beauty company. I had to bring in my own cameras, my own editing software for a beauty company. And they had the budget. They just didn't want to invest in it because they didn't see it as a worthy investment. So one, I had to convince them that it was. And as soon as they started seeing the results, they were like, okay, cool, we can work with this, but we're still not going to fully invest in this video department because it's new to us. So I had to get very creative. And that was my first lesson, getting creative with small budgets and also small-minded people as well. Because when you have to create really high-end beauty videos in literally an office and all you've got is your camera, that's it. You really have to think outside the box. And then I think the crunch point was they quadrupled my workload overnight. So I went from working part-time with them, making 8 videos a week, which was just about doable within the time frame, and for their budgets as well, for what, like, I was their biggest investment basically, to 62 videos a month.
Wow.
So I gave them a choice: either you pay me more for the extra hours that I'm putting in, you hire somebody else, or you reduce my workload. The next day, they then said, okay, cool, we'll reduce your workload. And then the next day they said, well, what's happened to those extra videos? Okay, well, you told me to drop them. So I did, for my mental well-being. And I remember having that conversation with them. And the day that I had that conversation with them, I didn't sleep the night before because I knew it was going to be a challenging conversation. My hand was literally shaking as I was going into the office. And you know me, so I don't get anxious like that.
Not very often.
So when they said, okay, we're not going to renew your contract, I was like, yeah, do you know what? That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
So again, I took that as a sign to say, do you know what? If I really put some effort in and get out my comfort zone with this, then I could really give this business thing a serious go. And so I started running the health and wellbeing business and the video business simultaneously. And then I decided to drop the wellbeing business because, again, wasn't just aligned with where I wanted to go with my future, really. And I'm glad I took that leap of faith. And it took a while, but I got there in the end.
And I think it's, you know what, it's testament to yourself because you tried various industries or you've worked in different roles. They clearly weren't for you. And I think where people would maybe just stay in them and think, you know what, this is comfort, this is money, or this is an income. You challenged it and you said you pursued something that you're passionate about, which is a great lesson, really. Do you know what I mean? So for people thinking, Rohini's been fired 3 times, okay, like what's going on? I think it's the fact that you experimented in different fields, but then ultimately you've then gone for the one thing that you know that you'd be successful at, or that you'd be passionate enough to know that you can achieve something within it. And especially, like I said, just take it back to your parents for a second. And I think if anyone who's been on this show, there's always a recurring theme around that they worked in industries that they pursued industries where there may not have been that initial agreement or approval by their parents, but all their family or that pushback they may have had, but ultimately they believed in themselves. So I think that's credit to yourself, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I've always had supportive parents. All it is, they just wanted to know that I was going to be safe and secure, and that was it. And as soon as I started bringing in the money, they were absolutely fine with them.
Yeah. I was going to ask, just before we kind of move into the break, is you mentioned obviously what we just spoken about in terms of getting fired, and then obviously then having the resilience and the strength to come back each time and then start those businesses under that immense pressure. What's your advice to anyone who is listening or watching right now thinking that they're not either enjoying their job or they're thinking of leaving their job, or they may have been fired from their job and they're thinking, I don't know what to do now. What's your advice for anyone who's in that position?
I think you got to look at what it is that you really want. Because if you do really genuinely just want that comfort zone and you want that paycheck, amazing, stick at it, go through whatever you're going through. But if you think, actually, I do want a little bit more, then look at your options outside of the bubble that you're in. When I was in that bubble and I'd just been fired, I was thinking, okay, what other avenues can I explore right now? And also, what's my safety net? It's easy for us to think, well, I've got this job and that's my safety net, but actually you can rely on savings. Maybe you've got family that can support you as well. Maybe if you took that leap of faith, then the safety net will just appear. So it's almost like you have to trust the process a little bit.
Yeah.
But also look at the options to say, if I do happen to fail, this is what I've got to fall back on. But also, this is what I can do to stop myself from failing and falling.
Okay.
It's. I think it's about your mindset training. When you become a business owner, when you go into something new, your mindset is going to shift. You're not going to be that person that you were when you were in that position. You're going to become the new person. So think about, what kind of a person do I want to be, and embody that. Yeah.
That's a lovely way to end the first half of the show. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break just for a few minutes, and then we'll come back to the second half of the ZoShow with Rohini. Okay, just stay tuned and we'll see you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second half of the ZoShow. We're here with Rohini, an expert videographer. And we just before the break, we were talking about Rohini's journey, how she got into video, just a few things as well about kind of mindset and how people can overcome certain barriers when it comes to kind of, wanting to achieve and work what they want to do. So in this half now, Rohini, what I wanted to really talk about, or actually the first thing I'm going to ask you is, video can be so daunting, a little bit like public speaking, and people think when they're on video, they get really nervous, people don't like being on video a lot of the time, and, they cover their face, and, they sort of almost like, the camera almost like, it almost provides this bit of, it's almost like it's a barrier between the person and the camera. So what I want to ask you is, in your own experiences, what was it like when you first started doing your own videos, or when you started to record other people on camera? What sort of challenges did you face?
For me personally, I was a perfectionist. And so I hated when I stuttered or I mumbled or I forgot what I was going to say. And that can easily happen because when you're talking to a camera, it's a weird feeling because you're talking to something that's not interacting back with you. So the way I got over that was understanding that I'm here to deliver value. And if I'm making it about me by thinking, well, how do I sound? Then that's being a little bit selfish. And I know that's going to trigger some people. But if you are not putting video content out there for your own reasons of feeling self-conscious, you're being selfish because you're holding back knowledge because of how you feel. And when you shift that mindset of, actually, I'm here to deliver value, my clients are going to come to me because of the value I deliver, you'll find that the pressure just lifts from yourself. And that's what I found when I started doing videos. I just thought, okay, how can I deliver as much value as possible to people? And that got me thinking less about me and more about them.
Okay. So what if there's people watching this now, listening, thinking, right, I want to do videos. I've got, I want to do videos as part of my social media, or, I never thought about doing videos, but I might give it a go now. What's some quick kind of introductory tips that you can give them?
Understand your target demographic in detail. Like what I mentioned earlier, find out exactly what makes them tick, what would intrigue them. That way, then you can start working backwards and creating content that's going to stand out to them and feel a bit more personal to them. So I've got a client, for example, he was a builder. We do a lot of drone work with them, but we also do a lot of walkthrough videos where he's literally talking to camera, saying, this is what we do, this is what we're doing, here's a site update. And people like that because they can see his energy. But if you're not so confident like that, being on camera, one, you can hire somebody. So when somebody is filming you, you can just be talking to them rather than at the camera. So it's like you're just having that one-on-one conversation with them. And then when you edit it, you just chop out the other person. And two, don't watch yourself back, because you're going to hate how you look and how you sound the first few times. It's going to take some adjusting and getting used to. Know that that's completely normal, and know your viewers are not picking up on it as much as you. They're not picking up on how you sound, or whether or not you sound nasally or deep-throated. They're not picking up on that spot that you've got on your chin or whatever. Like,
try to cover it as best as I could, really. Yeah.
But nobody cares, because they're there for the value.
Yeah.
I mean, and this just goes beyond video as well, beyond video marketing. Everybody is out for themselves. They're thinking, what is going on in my own world? They're thinking about themselves and themselves only.
Yeah.
So your little video, and I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but your video, it's not going to stand out to them, because they're thinking about them, what's in it for them. Yeah. When you start making the video about what's in it for them, then they'll start appreciating you for the value that you've given.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you guys a story, actually. So I had a prospect call me specifically to tell me that they're not going to do business with me because I don't wear makeup and I don't do my hair a certain way in videos. As soon as they called me to tell me that, I said, cool, thank you so much for telling me. I know that you're not a client of mine. I appreciate the feedback, you taking the time to politely share that hate. But I knew there and then that they weren't going to be a client of mine. They just disqualified themselves. And that's the number one fear for people of why they don't do videos. They're afraid of that judgment. But here's the thing. If somebody's going to not do business with you because of how you look and sound, they are not your ideal client. You've repelled that person, which is a good thing.
Interesting. Some great tips there, actually. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully people can implement those and start to begin their own video journey. I was just thinking, do you think the emergence of like things like social media, we mentioned TikTok and YouTubers and all that sort of stuff now, the accessibility and the ease of which now people can record video and the influencing of that, the viralness and all that sort of stuff, do you think that's put pressure on people maybe doing videos where they think, like, if I do a video, it's not going to be like that. Whereas 15, 20 years ago, people were doing videos because they want to do a video. But do you think now there's that comparative thing now?
I think that comparative nature has always been there. Business in general is just really competitive. So it's normal for business owners to compare themselves to their competitors or somebody else that they've seen online and think, how can I do that? Or how can I make it better? I think it just comes down to your own personal perspective. Yeah.
So video in terms of, so for yourself now, I know that, you've evolved from doing like corporate videos, video marketing. You're now venturing into like the property world as well. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
So I got into that a few years ago, actually, when a contact of mine just put me forward for a job. I did it and I thought, you know what, I really love this industry more than any other. And so I just love seeing like the transformation process. And when you put a drone on like a massive project, it just brings that whole project to life and it just shows it from like a completely different perspective. And I think what's fun about making property videos is it gives an insight into a very unique industry, something that you wouldn't normally see otherwise.
So now like videos in property, isn't it? You're now doing like new builds. I know you work with a home cinema client as well. Must be exciting to like have the drone and everything. So I know you got the license. Was it last year or year before for your
no
for
license
your drone?
Just yet, because right now I don't really need one. But I got the drone last year.
Oh, okay. What's it like with the drone? 'Cause I mean, people must be thinking like, watching or listening, thinking, "Oh, wow, a drone must be fun." Like, probably doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, it is really fun.
Yeah.
I had a client a few weeks ago who I saw him eyeing it up over the last few weeks, and I said to him, "Do you want to have a go on it?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've been waiting for that question."
Yeah. As in, could he fly
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Is there not a danger that they might damage it, or they might?
We flew it in an open area, so there
Okay.
was no risk of that.
Okay. So it's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. Oh, and how is that? How has that helped in terms of impacting your business? Having aerial shots and using a drone for this
massively. Yeah. Within the first month, I got my return on the investment for it, because when you're working in property, people want to see the scale of the build. They want to see how big it is, and also the landscape as well. When you're purchasing a property, it's really important. When you're showcasing a property, it's really important to showcase the actual landscape of it, because when you're buying a property from a viewer perspective, you want to know what's surrounding you as well, don't you?
Yeah.
And you can only really get that from a drone shot unless you're physically there.
Yeah. It's that kind of the difference in shots and the I suppose the variety that it brings as well.
But also, it's going to separate you from the people that are just going to be filming on their phone, because there are a lot of people, not just in property but in business in general. They are producing low quality content, and that's the point that we can talk about actually. What makes viral content? Because you can create viral content with really poor quality videos, because it's all about psychology. But I think what makes you stand out from a business perspective is having that quality, having that edge, and communicating with your consumers in a way that relates to them and making it fun for them to watch you.
Interesting. And it's funny because we're on video right now.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, we know. So it's an interesting psychology, isn't it? Where I suppose when people see a video, when they see something being documented, they're seeing someone being filmed, or they see some kind of, it's the evidence of it. It's the evidence. Firstly, I always find it's the evidencing of it, where it's in a visual format which they can actually engage with. One thing I did want to ask though is when people are doing like speaking videos, I know you mentioned you can look at other people, and now things like AI, which I know we touched on earlier, you can get other people to now do a voiceover, or other people can speak for you, like in a virtual way. But if people are doing speaking videos, like public speaking is already such a massive fear for people. So I don't know if you've touched on this before, but when people are speaking on camera, what can they do to maybe just help themselves a little bit? Because I often find like people, they freeze when they're on, particularly when they're speaking. But what you were saying was about expertise. People have all this knowledge and they're not sharing it. So if someone wants to do their first video, let's say tomorrow, they're listening and watching this thinking, right, I'm going to do a video now. I've been putting it off for ages. What's that first step that they can take to do that first video?
I think the first step is understanding how you want to structure the video. And this is what I was saying earlier about you don't have to have like big, fancy, expensive equipment to make viral content. All you need is a really good quality structure. And that's why you see so many like cat videos or beauty videos or really random videos just doing really well, because they tap into our psychology and they make us intrigued. So the structure I always suggest to people when they're first starting out in video is start with a hook, something that provokes curiosity, something that makes people want to know more. And the hook has to be a really short sentence or even just a really short phrase. It can even be a bit controversial. Then you want to go into the main body of your whatever it is that you're talking about. With the main body, keep it short and sweet. If you can tell a story within that, amazing, because people are much more likely to remember content with stories in it, because it's how we learn. And then end it with your call to action. Call to action is the part where you tell people what step you want them to take next. That could either be subscribe for more content, follow me for this, comment below if you have any questions. And with the call to action, what makes it easy for the people to convert is you want to make it as simple as possible for people. Like I see people where it's like, click this link to get this download, and then put in your email for the download, and then you finally get to what you want. When if you make it as less steps as possible for people to get what they want, they're much more likely to actually convert into clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? And it's always that thing that people don't think about, isn't it? The pre-step, the preparation, the planning element of it. What about the kind of the follow-on? So they've recorded their content, they've got a nice video, even if it's their first one, it may not be great, but how can they then capitalize on that?
Know that when you first start doing videos, you're probably not going to get any traction on it. Completely normal. Keep doing it. Keep being consistent, because you're going to attract your ideal client. If you follow that structure correctly, you're going to start attracting your ideal clients. And then when you start doing that, they may not watch you. They may not engage with you. They may not comment for you, but they may take you up on your call to action offer.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to be consistent. Like my clients, all of the clients that I've got now, and even in the last year or so, none of them, and I mean 0, interacted with my content, but they all saw my content before they engaged with me.
Yeah. So what you're saying is people are always observing, aren't they?
People are always observing. And then when you start getting that traction coming in, amazing. Make it fun for people to interact. Like, ask them questions, get them involved, get them thinking. When people start commenting on your posts and when they start liking your posts, reach out to them and just start a conversation. Now, I always say to people, when somebody likes my comment, so when people like my post or comments on my post and I think, well, actually, they're my ideal client, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, thank you so much for interacting with my video about blah, blah, blah. Is there anyone in my network that I can introduce you to? Now, that may sound like a really odd question, but what it does is it cuts through the noise, because there's so many people out there just offering crap, basically.
Yeah.
Spammy sales messages saying, thank you so much for interacting with my video. Here's where you can buy blah, 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 blah. Do you want to find out more about your service? Nobody cares. But when you say, what can I do for you? That's when they start thinking, well, actually, maybe this person's a bit more genuine. And I've had people reach out to me using this method, where I've said to them, use this method, and they've done it. And then they've come back to me and said, actually, that really worked. It really got me to that point of having a one-to-one with my ideal client. That's powerful stuff right there.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was just going to ask you about, you mentioned about people engaging with your content and they're then further engaging by liking and subscribing. So people are a little bit lost with this conversation, by the way. We are talking about social media, which I feel now is so important, in not just in business. I think we are surrounded by social media all the time. But you mentioned how people, when they're engaging with your profile, with your page, with whatever you're putting out, that can encourage them to then do more. But in your own experiences, when you've been working with clients or people, or when you're doing your own stuff, what can put people off? Like maybe sort of, let's say people do a few videos or their trial video for themselves or their business or their platforms. What can potentially sort of put them off, and how can they then sort of almost remove that doubt, that they might have?
Yeah. So in the early days, when you start doing videos, like I said, you're not going to see that traction. I'd be very surprised if you do see that traction straight away. So all you got to do is stay the course, trust the process, trust that eventually things are going to start happening. It's all going to compound eventually. So just stick with it. Experiment with your content as well. Change it up a bit, because people like seeing new and fresh ideas, new things, because nobody likes to see the same old boring stuff.
Yeah. Do you think people can also maybe be a bit lighthearted with their content as well, where they have behind the scenes, bloopers, outtakes? I mean, you must have done so many over the years with people,
Yeah, I think it depends on your brand and what your brand values are and how you want your brand to be perceived, because not every brand can get away with it.
Yeah.
But definitely most of them can. And I think it's encouraged to show people behind the scenes of how you actually work. So I've done this with almost all of my clients over the last few months, actually, where we've shown people an insight into their everyday life. And it just provides, even though to them it's boring, to other people it's really fascinating, because it's an insight into something that they wouldn't normally get to see.
Yeah. Is that like things like a day in the life of, or, a throwback, even like things like throwbacks to a previous video from years ago or something. Yeah, you think you're right, isn't it? It almost like it offers a different way of connecting with that person, doesn't it? You know, or their business and whatever it is.
Yeah, and it creates curiosity. I think really good viral content creates curiosity.
Yeah. No, very, very interesting. You know, and now obviously working for various clients, like I said, now you're going into the property world even further. I believe you're just about to launch another business.
Yeah, Live Property. I'm super excited for it.
Tell us about that. Yeah.
So after working in luxury property for a few months, maybe going on a year now, I've always been interested in property and looking at various strategies over the previous years and I've been thinking, well, what can I do in property? I've always wanted to do something. And I looked at flipping, that didn't really suit me. And I looked at the different strategies, and working in serviced accommodation, luxury serviced accommodation, that's the one that called to me the most. So I think one of the founders of this company, Past the Property, he connected with me on Facebook. God knows how he found me, but he did. And so I saw one of his posts saying, I'm running this mentorship program about luxury serviced accommodation. Here's where you can book on. Booked in a call with him. And then the rest is history. So literally looking into getting my first property signed up now. So I'm super excited for it.
It's amazing. Because I always see your content, honestly. It's like, I love seeing especially the drone footage, but I've noticed you're doing that side of things, you know, a lot more, you know, with property, with, you know, just new, I think it's that kind of almost like like you said, it's that curiosity behind it. When you see a new build, you see things in construction, in preparation, the home cinema client, you know what I mean, which, you know, who I know as well. Without putting you on the spot, what would you say is I suppose over the years, what kind of videos have you preferred doing, or what kind of videos in the past have you thought, I really like those kind of videos, or that kind of industry or category? You know, what have you enjoyed most about video?
I don't think there's a particular style that I like. I think it's more on a per project basis. I mean, me and my clients, we vibe really well anyway, so that's always really fun to work with them. But I just love showing their project from a different perspective.
Yeah. It's interesting because they don't see it, do they? I suppose when you're then creating a video for someone, all of a sudden they're reflecting on it, thinking, "Wow, I didn't know I was like this," or "I didn't know what my business was like that." You know?
Yeah, we had that with one of our construction clients actually. So when we started doing videos with them, we started getting them thousands of views, even though they only had about I think like 200 followers at that point. And they were like, "Oh my God, I didn't even know that this was possible." And he started getting people in his network reaching out to him saying, "Do you know what? Your content looks absolutely amazing. I didn't know that you were doing builds like that." And he was like, yeah, we're doing it like that.
Yeah.
And I've just hired this video lady to showcase what we're doing. Yeah.
So it's amazing, isn't it? People themselves don't even realize the impact of what they're doing. You know, so I suppose it's people like yourself are the ones who are then, you know, I suppose bringing that out of them, you know, and you're exposing the kind of those positive traits about their business, you know, which is so nice to see.
It's all about showing their values.
Yeah. I think that's wonderful, honestly. And I think just as we sort of move into the closing stages now, you know, what are your sort of, do you have any final thoughts or reflections before we finish? So, like, we covered a lot about, you know, mindset, business, video strategies, video tips, confidence. But in the remaining minutes we've got left, what's your sort of like final thoughts that you want to leave people with?
I think before you hire a professional to handle your marketing, look and see what you can do yourself. And this is something that most marketing people won't tell you to do because they're just interested in your money. But there's a lot of YouTube videos. I share a load of videos myself on how to get results using videos. I literally teach people how to do what I do. And the reason I say to learn how to do it yourself is so that when you do hire a professional, you have a perspective on what already works for you. You know what you like and you know what you don't like. You know what your audience respond to. So that way then, when you do hire a professional, there's less of that bedding in time with them.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
And then also, you know, whether or not you're getting ripped off.
Yeah. And that's great. And I think it's a great way actually to sort of, to connect the two dots together of like the fact that you're not just somebody who creates videos, you are somebody who can help other people with their videos and their video marketing, and particularly with social media, which is a hot at the minute. We do have just a couple minutes left. So,
video is, it's not marketing. Like a lot of business owners see marketing as a separate entity, and it's not. It's very much integrated into your overall business plan. So if you don't know what's going on in your own marketing department, then you haven't really got a grip of potentially how your business is going to grow.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why handling it yourself in the beginning stages is a really good strategy, because then you can get to know what works for you and what doesn't work.
Yeah. How can people, if they're listening to this, thinking, right, I've heard enough now, and I want to connect with Rohini, and I want to, I need someone like Rohini in my life to help me with videos. I think we could all do with the Rohini in their lives. But if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Find me online. It's Live by Media UK.
Fantastic. And you're available on all platforms?
All platforms, yeah.
All platforms, wonderful. As you should be. And I'm sure there's plenty of videos on those platforms as well. So Rohini, look, honestly, it's just been such a whirlwind of an episode in terms of we've covered so much, and honestly there's so much breadth of knowledge I think that's been shared. For anyone who's been listening and watching, I'm sure you'll agree as well. There's been so many nuggets of wisdom that have been covered in this episode. However, we must close the show now, unfortunately. So anyone who's gutted about that, I do apologize. However, this show will be available on the radio and on our YouTube channel, so please do like and subscribe to that. But Rohini, thank you so much for coming on. It's been absolutely wonderful. It's been a pleasure having you on again. For those of you who are tuning into the ZoShow, we will be back again next week for another episode. So like I said, please do keep liking, subscribing and tuning in. And for those of you who are on Unity FM listening right now, please do stay tuned on Unity FM, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of the ZoShow. Thank you very much.